Welcome to another episode of JWtalks. Today we're going to talk about our favorite band, or one of them, Dream Theater. And we're going to rank our top 10 Dream Theater records. We thought we'd simplify the overwhelming discography. And at the helm, I have my good buddy Carson. We like to call him Garsh. And I would say he's a bigger Dream Theater fan than me, so I think I'm going to learn a lot from Garsh today.
Yeah.
And
well, we've been with from the beginning. I mean, we went to high school together, and we're definitely inspired from the early days. And man, they just never stopped putting out albums. They're getting heavier and longer, more epic tracks. So it's an inspiring group of musicians for sure.
That's true. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that they would have been kept going for such a long time. I mean, I thought they would probably, be 6 albums in and that's it. But yeah, they're still going. Like what? Yeah, 16 albums.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we should add. I wanted to add. It's considered an EP. Change of Seasons. I wanted to include that one in the discussion because I know that was a really influential album when that one came out. Like, and we all thought it was a studio album. I mean, it kind of half was anyway. So yeah. We're going to include that one. And, but some of the other live stuff they did, and some of the other, they've had a bunch of supplemental material between some of the things. But yeah, no, as far as studio goes, for sure. Okay,
we'll stick to 16.
Yeah. So let me go first, Garsh, because this is your first time. So So we'll go 10, 10, 9, 9. Okay.
Okay.
To kind of
fair enough. And as I said, this is an interesting process that I think is going to change around as I go. And I don't even know if I've made the right choices because it's just each one has affected me at a different point in my life. And even kind of going through this whole exercise and listening to it puts me back to that time and when that music meant a lot for where I was ever at. So it's kind of hard to rank it. Sometimes it's musical, sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's a blend of both. And
for sure.
It's hard and I don't think there's a huge, for me personally, I don't think there's a huge difference. It's like a lot of them are very kind of close together and almost interchangeable in some ways based off of the day or where I'm at in my headspace. So
yeah, it's true. And yeah, it's difficult for the first few albums that made you fall in love with the band. It's hard to compete with those ones, right? Because those have just been part of your music makeup or your musical DNA for such a long time. I know it's difficult to compete with the classics, but then there's the other thing where you might get sick of them, and then you get fresh new record that you're just so in love with because it's so fresh. I mean, so yeah, there's
and everything. I think they're just one of those bands that keeps evolving and building on top of what they've already done, and it's sort of to see what they put out new and how it's different or how it's there. It's adds another element as well. So they never put out boring material. I mean, it's I find it's
and I find that they're not very subtle. They tend to just go for things, right? And they take a lot of risks, and but that's what I love about them is that they're very adventurous. They don't they don't seem to hold back.
Well, they're very heavy, but they're also they're very humble and well spoken and just really genuine. And hearing Jordan and John and then James and then the mics over the years, like it's just their co-collaboration on everything. It's just to be a fly on the wall in some of their creative process, especially, not that it's included, but like the liquid tension experiment elements that they get onto on the side. Like it's very experimental and it's very interesting music. And there's a lot to be inspired by and learn from. So I'm grateful for them. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So why don't I go first here? So, so my number 10.
Yeah.
This album is probably the only album on the list that I'm a little bit mixed on, but there's parts of the record that I absolutely love. That's why I included it. This is pretty universally accepted as a mixed record. where people
Yep.
just weren't really sure about it. I think you could probably guess which one it was. The expectations on this album were huge,
Mm-hmm.
and I think when we got this record, we weren't really fully satisfied by it. Can you guess which one it is?
No, just go. Let
right.
me yeah.
Falling into Infinity.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the only one where they broke away from their typical the Dream Theater logo. Like it's like they were branching into a different branding of it.
For sure. I like to say like the 90s were a very difficult time for metal bands, right? Like the rules were so different in the 90s, and Dream Theater was kind of like, and bands like Pantera, they were kind of the exception, where they were able to have a fairly fruitful career in this weird decade. Dream Theater, I feel like the 90s was starting to weigh on them on this album. They were starting to kind of get a little confused about what style they should go in, what direction they should go in. I imagine their label was probably really breathing down their neck in a really kind of short-term label way, saying like, we need another Pull Me Under, like we need we need another hit, right? So I think they probably succumbed a little bit to the label, but you could tell that they didn't want to.
No, there is something in there for sure, and there's some great tracks on that album. I appreciated it was with Derek Sherinian on keys there too, because it was the last album before Rudes came aboard.
So and I always liked the first song, New Millennium. That I feel like that was the band's ode to King Crimson,
right?
And I think is John playing the stick?
I think so.
So
from what I remember,
he's doing the Tony Levin thing there. Which is pretty cool. And and I mean, You Not Me, I could do without that one. Hollow Years, kind of lightweight. I love Hell's Kitchen though. Lines in the Sand. It's got the King's X singer on it, I think.
That's right.
And I love Trial of Tears too. I think it's probably like the coolest keyboard solo at the very end there. That's nuts. Derek's shredding. It sounds killer. So I mean, great moments. A little lightweight, a little hesitant, maybe artistically hesitant. But still great.
Fair enough. Well, I have a lot of interchanging ones, and I know through this whole conversation I'm probably going to be like, I could see how I could have switched that one around or whatever as I try to rank them, and I'm even looking down this list going, there's a lot I can interchange, because for me there's the early influences and a lot of the Portnoy stuff, and then I got into a lot of the Mangini elements in the later years because it had a different musical collaboration, especially with I feel with John and Jordan kind of, really steering and creating a lot of the music and then supporting it with the other members. So this one, I have it here now, but in some ways I could even put it up higher than the list, but I needed to make it in the top 10. But I have Black Clouds and Silver Linings.
Nice.
Which, again, I can put that right at the top list on some days or there. I mean, what can I say about that album? I'm trying to remember. This would have been the last album before Portnoy left the band. And so it kind of had a feel that you didn't even know. I mean, he wrote The Best of Times, which was a tale for his recently deceased father. And I mean, in some ways, I think you could almost feel too, I think, that Portnoy was starting to feel the rift and the separation, and getting pulled into having to go in his own directions. And I think it was shortly after that album that he announced that they're going their separate ways. But there's just some like really, really heavy tracks and just some emotional elements that I really enjoyed about it. And then I really enjoyed the second disc, the extended disc, with some of the covers they put on there. Yeah, they had like an Iron. I think it was an Iron Maiden. Was it Iron? Yeah, I think it was Iron Maiden. I don't have I don't have the same album list in front of me with all the songs type thing. Um, but I really got a lot from that album. As I say, it could even move up on sometimes, but it's, yeah, maybe I'll pull some of them up on my phone as we go here, just so I have the track lists.
Yeah, I am loving the Lark's Tongue and Aspic cover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Like they did some really cool elements there.
In the
Um,
Land was the Iron Maiden cover.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, which was based off of like Dune, I think, or whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll put that at 10. And then again, this whole list, this is just a back and forth. It's, as you said before, this is just an excuse to listen to a lot of Dream Theater again and go through it.
Yeah,
Really,
totally. I mean, like some people might get kind of frustrated that we're ranking these things. It's like, how can you rank all these great records? But yeah, it's more just a fun exercise,
yeah,
more than anything. And
yeah.
yeah, Dark Shed.
Yeah, like or I'll add on to it. And this is how I'll do it from going on. I'll pull up the albums as I go. But there were, there were elements on that album, and I felt like themes that tied back in. But I remember going through a rite of passage in some ways in my life there, and so some of the songs kind of really hit to it. And then the Shattered Fortress kind of builds off of Glass Prison. Like I just like how they thematically tie in and keep speaking to past albums and other ideas and themes.
That's right.
The Best of Times has got one of the serious most outro solos. Like just had a lot of feel, and just you can really feel like it's a Portnoy's kind of dedication to his father there. And The Count of Tuscany is just a great track, like epic. And yeah, and then all the covers at the end there too. Yeah, yeah. All right, well, we'll leave it at that. But there it goes.
Okay, nice. Okay, so this one was the hardest one for me to rank because it's so unlike all the other Dream Theater albums. So it might be a little low because I've heard it maybe twice the whole way through.
Yep.
So it's the Astonishing.
Yeah.
So this is an epic record. It's the band's probably their biggest, boldest attempt at a full concept musical theater album.
Yep. Yep.
It has a very similar theme to Rush's 2112.
Right.
Where
the rock opera.
The rock opera, yeah, and it sort of has that same kind of theme of of this dystopian, authoritarian society that is allowing the freedom of music, and it's a pretty in-depth script, and I think it's really impressive. I think the band nails it. The only kind of I guess negative thing I have for it is that it's just a little overwhelming,
right?
For me, and it's hard to listen to it casually. You have to really devote yourself to it and focus on it.
Yes,
which I sometimes with music in general, I like to kind of put it on in the background, or maybe just pick a few songs and just kind of put them on loop.
Yes.
Whereas this album, it's hard to do that. You have to really zone in. But having said that, I think it's amazing. I think they nail it. And the standout members for me is James LaBrie and Jordan Rudess. I think they have a real theatrical flair to their playing in general. So if you're James LaBrie just seems so at home doing more of a musical theater. Thing, right? And same with Jordan Rudess. I mean, he could easily have a huge career being a pit orchestra piano player if he really wanted to, right? Like he has absolutely knowledge, right? So so those guys
are really huge classical element stuff. And no, I think I'd shared with you they had how they released just sort of the making of and sort of the thematic blends and how him and him and Jordan and John were just collaborating and really bringing in these themes and how they speak throughout it. But as you say with James too, really singing, but like singing a lot of the different characters, and it's just a real story, and it's really visceral. It's on my list, but it's higher up, and I've given it that time because I was just really impressed with it, and it was one of the live performances I wish I'd actually gone to be able to see from kind of start to finish, in the 2 acts of it and stuff. I was really, it keeps pulling me back in, but I know every time when I want to get a taste of it, I know the context of wherever those songs are and the story that it is within. So I can definitely appreciate for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it might be a fun time to just like, have it, just set a day aside or just like a night and just get together with a few friends, just actually watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody's theater there. We can go like watch the whole live performance,
Yeah. Well, they were speaking about it, trying to, they can almost turn it. You could see it turned into like an anime or like a cartoon kind of, just a whole rock opera story with like the different things that would, you could see them developing that, and the different characters would be able to speak the different parts within the movies and just add a whole visuals. I think it just took me up to another world, or into another place, like in my imagination. And then add the music on top of it, even there, like it's just covered a whole range of different emotions, and just the story is it's pretty impressive. And they were like, okay, we got to do something like this, and it's got to be really long, and it's got to be really complex and go all over the place. It's just like, wow, just from sheer, I was astonished at times.
Well, and they're definitely the band to do a project like that, right? I mean,
that's right.
I think like most bands, probably like wouldn't have the stomach to see this whole thing through, right?
Sure.
It took a lot of work. Yeah, but this is a pretty divisive album in the Dream Theater fans. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. Well, I'm not seeing a lot of in-betweeners. I think you either get it or you don't.
Yeah, and I think that was the third album with Mangini, I think, right? Because they did a dramatic turn of events, then they did Dream Theater 12, and then I think if I'm not mistaken, I gotta double check my thing, but yeah.
For not counting Change of Seasons, this would be their 13th studio record.
Yeah. All right. For me, because again, I'm sort of going down this list and it's bouncing back and forth because I have my whole vibe with like Portnoy days, and then I also have my vibe with the Mangini elements, and I bounce back and forth to both of them, and the Mangini, being the newer ones, and the Portnoy just having these roots that go really deep. So, and so one of my ones that I was kind of on the fence for, but I was looking back really at a formative time back when we were in high school was, and sort of I put as 9 here, but I put Awake.
Nice.
And just because I remember kind of the influence it had, Images and Words was the first one that kind of really hit me. And then Awake just kind of did something for me back in my high school day to just kind of really inspire me in different ways and have an impact. And I mean, this is when Kevin Moore was on keyboards. So it was before Sherinian and before Rudess. But, there was a lot of tracks on there. And again, some albums I went in and they're, they have a feel, but there's a bunch of individual songs. Some of the albums in this thing that I ranked, I liked because they were very concept and they were all kind of linked through with different segue kind of properties that had a different relationship. But as far as an album that kind of really hit me, I mean, I remember playing, we had our camping thing, and I remember playing the Silent Man live up at there. It was sort of just these.
Oh, yeah.
It was a really neat foray into music, and they were really inspiring me back then at that time. And I know they were still trying to get their roots into commercial success. There's something really powerful about them building themselves as a band there, and you know, a live enterprise. But they, you know, I love the piano and like Space Divest and like Voices and Scarred. I even remember us playing Lifting Shadows Off a Dream in high school one time there too. And, you know, so I think this one's maybe more of a personal one, but they've done a lot more experimental stuff seriously since then. But there's something to that album that I think really kind of, it was an ode to kind of the old school that was really, that I needed to kind of have somewhere on my list and figure out, because I really, yeah, I got a lot from it and enjoyed a lot of the songs and a lot of strong technical work too. And yeah, so
nice.
That was released, what, 94?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, this is, I think for them back in those days too, you know, when I was learning guitar, you know, Metallica was on that list, and then Megadeth, but Dream Theater was one that kind of really opened up this different horizon, and obviously just a different level of challenging playing and whatnot, but musicality with keyboards and stuff that, yeah, is early foundations and appreciating them where they went. So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. So for me, my number 9 is number 8.
Number 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Systematic Chaos for number 8.
Yep.
Yeah. At this point, I love all these records. Like it's yeah, it was just tough. I mean, they're all great.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I see kind of each of those albums in those days from after Metropolis and 6 Degrees, like they are, you know, Systematic Chaos is close to like an Octavarium. It's close to, you know, Black Clouds. Like they're building, they're getting tighter within their thing, and it's.
Yeah.
But I love that. Yeah, it's find out soon. It's on my list up there too, because it's. But please, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Give me your reasons there.
Fine. So yeah, so this is more of a heavy record. You can kind of tell from the album cover is pretty menacing with those ants and the imposing highway grid there. Yeah, I love In the Presence of Enemies is awesome. It's a 2-part to kind of tie the album together. That's really cool.
Me too. Yeah, bookends.
Constant Motion. I love that song. I've yet to learn that guitar solo, but it's on the list. I'm a little scared.
Oh yeah, nice.
Gonna try. It looks like so Repentance. I love Repentance too. That's one of my favorite songs, and that is also a continuation of Portnoy's 12-step program song.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, I think it started on 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, and you're saying it ends on the Black Clouds and Silver Lining. I think that's where it ends.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, and Constant Motion, I think, speaks to his constantly turning wheels. It's such a Portnoy song. Like he's just got that OCD brain. Like he's just driving it. Like,
gotcha.
Yeah.
It's a perfect
Dark Eternal Night, badass. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean, awesome record. It could be higher, right? But it's like, I mean, but there's other albums, right? So it's like, how do you? Yeah. You gotta make a choice. But awesome record. I got nothing bad to say about it. It's awesome.
Yep.
It's killer.
I might switch these two around just as a poetic thing for my number 8, even though it could be higher, but I might as well do a last minute audible here and have Octavarium be number 8, even though it could be a little higher as well on my list. There's something, you know, in the conceptual of it, but you know, it seems poetic to put it at the 8th position there. I mean, again, it's another emotional album where I was in my life at that time. Let me just pull up on my phone the different tracks to be able to speak to. But what I did like about that album, conceptually especially, you know, we're talking 2005 here, you know, eight songs in the album, and I think they're all written in a different key, right? So I think, so it's such a neat idea where starting with the root of all evil. And I think they just keep moving up with the starting note, and each song is written in that different key, but they all have this heaviness. There's segues beside it. And then, Octavarium is that final track. It's pretty epic, and what they go out to achieve. But yeah, Panic Attack and Never Enough, like there's just some really tight, heavy, gritty guitar, keys, like just that kind of growling keyboard that's just like a fucking pit bull, it's they're just getting heavy, and like all the unison work and whatnot. But yeah, there's something about that album that, again, I like these concept albums where it's a greater theme, their 8th album as well, and it just ties together. And by the end, you're just sort of like, there's something completed at the end of the listening, and it was at a time in my life where I just, moving through a lot and still dealing with a lot of personal things going on in my own life. And it really spoke to me and at a time, and like a lot of the albums have done. But yeah.
Yeah, Dream Theater was kind of it was like a musical and spiritual refuge for guys like you and me, right? Where we're kind of like our minds are pretty busy, and it's nice to just have a band that you can relate to, and it doesn't feel like there's any judgments on having all questions about stuff, and just having a real kind of active musical mind for a lot of things, right?
So, and I think this one too, they were this is evolving that kind of some of that. This is before Constant Motion, this one, I guess, and it's after 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, I believe, which was the one before. And I can just, they just keep kind of ratcheting it up and getting tighter and a little bit more experimental. And I think Sacrifice Son speaks to, some of the 9/11 elements that went down with terrorism. Like, they tie in some of these themes to speak to some of these tensions going on in the world, as well as other ones that are maybe a little more personal. But yeah, they've always reached me at that place. And so, as I say, a lot of these albums are they're interchangeable. And every time I listen to them, I'm like, okay, this is my favorite one now. Until I listen to the other one, I'm like, oh, that one's my favorite now,
Yeah. Okay, so just moving along here, I'm going to go number 7.
Yep.
Go with the EP, Change of Seasons.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I was kind of way deep into the prog thing when this album came out. I was listening to all kinds of bands like Genesis, Yes, and like when I saw this album, I got really excited because it's like, oh, cool, 23-minute song. That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're like going full prog, and I really like that, and even just having the covers of their prog influences, that was great too.
Yep.
Because then that actually helped me kind of actually go, and I actually went out and bought the Genesis album right after I saw that song Turn On Again. So
nice.
It's pretty cool. It was a nice kind of it was a nice roadmap to go back, and some of that 70s prog stuff is just so cool. And it's and I like that they wear their influences on their sleeves. Like, they're not afraid to cover their early influences. Same with Metallica. Like, they're not afraid to do a bunch of covers.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
I think that was Sherinian as well. I think he was he came in, but after Kevin Moore left, kind of thing. Yeah. So,
and I think this, so the Change of Seasons song, this is about is it about Mike Portnoy's mom that died in a plane crash, I think? Is that?
Oh, maybe. You know what? That's interesting. I wasn't sure. I never even found out the roots of that one, but that might be something I want to look more into. But
I could be wrong. I had to look into that.
Okay.
Actually, just really quickly, I think the old singer for Dream Theater actually just recently died.
Yeah, Charlie Dominici.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a post on Instagram from Portnoy who's
Mm-hmm.
Updates. But yeah, no, I think he did, right. And he was obviously, I think he was celebrating, he was happy that Portnoy had got back in, but yeah, it was just shortly soon after that went there. So I guess they'd stayed in touch over the years, you know what I mean? And I don't know if they'd had some other musical collaborations, but I appreciate that about Portnoy too. And, you know, as much as an aside here from this whole list, but, you know, for him to really, you know, be one of the driving forces, I mean, obviously it was like hitting an iceberg for them to stop and reconfigure themselves and have to go through their process of finding a new drummer. But, you know, just for Portnoy to just have to cross collaborate and really work with a lot of other musicians outside of that, you know, is as free and as experimental, as adventurous as the container of Dream Theater could be, it would still kind of cage him in, which is, you know, and it's neat to see it all come full circle down the line, and to have him get that kind of out of his system now and come back, like it's gonna be like a 45-minute song or something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, no, I love. It's just like even more excitement to come, right? It's great that Dream Theater can just stay relevant in their own corner of the music.
Yeah. They're not slowing down, and they have no signs of growing arthritis or anything like that. Like their playing is just insane, you know? It's, yeah, fair enough.
All right, guys. So what's your 7 there?
Number 7, again, on days it could be even higher, but Distance Over Time.
Nice.
And it's obviously one of the newer ones. It was a few years back. But so it was only 9 songs, I guess 9. Yeah. 2019, they released it. Yeah. I mean, there's just a heavy, there's a real production there. Like, I might be mistaken. I thought they went into the studio and almost started writing a lot of the material within there. Like, I don't know if they came in with their songs already kind of orchestrated and arranged, or whether they went in there as a real kind of collaborative, and they kind of had a really interesting open space room. I'd have to double check it, but I remember seeing some behind the scenes footage of kind of this open kind of space where they really kind of worked on a lot of the material rather than kind of boxed off little studio things. It reminds me of like the Black Album, when they kind of Metallica wrote it back in the day, but they just went in and they wrote a bunch of songs within the studio rather than there.
I think too, like this album, I think was a bit of a reaction to the Astonishing, where they kind of did the opposite. So it's like their first album to be under an hour.
Right.
There's no songs that are over 9 minutes, so it feels like it's a much more.
It was an hour on the dot. They couldn't do it. They couldn't bring 59 minutes in. They had to make it at least an hour. Yeah. But like that, I mean, they got some of the softer. So like, I mean, Out of Reach is one with piano there. It's kind of haunting, but they got some other heavy ones in there. Pale Blue Dot, it's like really kind of experimental, like just, you know, and Mangini really has some really, they're tightening up their game with Mangini collaborating in there, and he's just obviously a pretty phenomenal force of a drummer. Barstool Warrior is such there's something to it. It's just such a great like track, like Paralyzed, Untethered Angel. Signal to Noise. At Wit's End is one of my favorite tracks too. Like just comes in and just starts ripping it off the bat. And it's just like, yeah. I think this was 2019. And so this is pre-pandemic kind of thing. But like, I remember really taking it into the pandemic and getting a lot, like there was something to it that, I don't know, wherever I was in my life there, just really It was a great album, man. I really enjoyed it. So,
Nice.
yeah.
See then. Cool.
Okay, so
Okay, so I'll go straight to number 6.
yeah.
Okay, so don't cross the crooked step.
Oh, nice. Little train of
Yeah,
thought.
train of thought, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably their
yeah,
heaviest record. Uh,
yeah,
there's moments where this is probably my favorite Dream Theater album. Uh,
yeah.
you know,
It's a little higher up on my list for me there. I mean,
yeah,
2003. I think the album was released pretty close to when my mom passed away, and I remember it just being like a very representative mirror for where I was at, and it, yeah, just fucking heavy and just a lot of grit and emotion. I hear you on that one.
yeah, just yeah. I mean, in the name of God. I mean, it's got to be. I think it's one of the coolest solos. Just so
Yeah,
over the top.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, this could be higher. I think the only thing I'm not sure about is like sometimes when they're kind of doing the rap vocals with like the distortion.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's super cool or a little cheesy. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
I sort of go back and forth. I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah,
uh.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, hey, it's awesome.
Well, this was I remember I think they did live at Budokan, and it was their live DVD album where they I think it was based off of this one with As I Am and the starting track and like just the feedback coming out and this dying soul is just fucking epic too. Like, yeah, it was endless sacrifice, honor thy father, like just they're just a tight machine that's just fucking it's like a steamroller, man. It just keeps crushing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the album cover is perfect for this record. It looks
Yeah.
sinister, right? It's like a scary cover, like
Yeah.
eye looking through that tunnel. Looks like yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so cool. Yeah, just an awesome, just an awesome all around record.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll echo all these things. It's again, it's a few steps up for me, but it's definitely one of those older ones in the history. But like they really start carving and tightening up the whole thing, the whole presence there. I'm on number 6. Number 6 was Systematic Chaos.
Nice.
Yeah, which we chat about there and whatnot. It was a hugely kind of impactful album at another point in my life where I was sort of still making heads or tails about things. And I just remember it just not leave. It was back in the days too, where we just had Discmans. It was even before any of the iPod stuff and whatnot. And I remember just like it just not leaving my Discman for a while. And like Ministry of Lost Souls and stuff like that were just some pretty like just epic tracks on top of In the Presence of Enemies, and it just had that energy. It just really had that kind of drive that I needed to just work through all the shit in my life back then, and I was just grateful for a band like that was just constantly putting it out and digging deep with the fucking train, just the steamroller just fucking crushing. I think I saw that album. I think I saw them play live, that one too. I was at the amphitheater back in the day, and it was just a great experience. So it deepened my respect and admiration for those guys even more. Yeah, they were at the height of their game. They were just a well-oiled machine, especially once Rudess got in there, just creatively and musically and everything like that. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, man. Okay, so top 5. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 5. This is a little bit of a contrarian opinion here.
Yeah.
Most people would probably put this as their number 1.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Metropolis Part 2. Scenes
Yeah.
from a Memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when this album came out, I was off the Dream Theater train. I was way into jazz fusion stuff at this point of my life. So I think I might have listened to it once and I was like, yeah, it's okay. I didn't give it the time of day. And when I got back into Dream Theater, I had a lot to catch up on, and so I was kind of listening to 4 or 5 albums with this one. So I mean, it didn't quite root itself in my in my Dream Theater timeline, like I think it did for most people, because it came right after Falling into Infinity, which was not really well received. So this one was like, it's another analogy to Rush's 2112, because but it's more of an analogy of their career, because this established that they had a permanent career with their fans, and they kind of cut the record label out of their decision on making, which for them was the perfect thing. Because they had a loyal fan base at this point, and all they need to do is cater to their fans, which most bands should do. And this album was a symbol of that, and I respect it for that. And also, I think not only is it Dream Theater's best concept, I think it's the best concept of all prog. I think
it's incredible.
It's an unbelievable story about this guy going through past life regression. It has spiritualism. It's a murder mystery, so there's a lot of tension. And I mean, it's brilliant. So
it's an homage. I mean, when you have a song on Images and Words called Metropolis Part 1, there's just sort of like, unless there's a part 2, why would you just not call it Metropolis? Like, so there's more here. What's going on here? What do you have to explain? Oh, you need a whole album to go into the concept behind this song. And I mean, it was their first album, because I think Liquid Tension Experiment stuff was happening around Falling into Infinity and stuff. And they and it was the first album that they pulled Rudess in, and Sherinian was gone. But I mean, Rudess's piano playing has just become obviously entrenched in their sound, and it just added a lot on top of the whole segue concept of it. It's for me right up there. It's higher up my list for sure. But it's all good.
And definitely, like, for Rudess, like that was the first time that I heard that kind of throwback barroom.
The organ grinder
piano sound. I like, for me, I mean, and it makes sense, right? It's probably showing the like the timeline of kind of an old fashioned kind of sound. But I love that in Dance of Eternity. Like, that always to me as being so cool. And
Dance of Eternity is just one of the most iconic and epic, instrumentals, and I love how when they were looking for their new drummer, it was one of the 3 songs they used just as a test to see if the drummer qualifies in there.
Well, do you know why?
Mangini just killed it.
Like, the reason it's called Dance of Eternity is because it will take you an eternity to learn how to dance to it.
You got it. Touche. Yeah. Let alone learn how to play all the time signatures and everything like that. Yeah.
But I'm sure you'll have more to say about it, so I won't go too deep.
No, all good. Yeah. No, I have a massive amount of respect for that. I think a lot of the hardcore fans did. It was definitely a page turner in where they were at, and I think it hit me right at that time. And back in 2000, 2001, I think I have the old DVD where they play live in New York, and it's got the Twin Towers actually in it, right in the heart of the image. And so they, it really stands out. And it was definitely a coming of age for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So 5 for me is one that I felt I enjoyed just because of the rebirth that it kind of offered. And there's just some killer tracks on it that really stood out. But it's the first album after Portnoy left, in a dramatic turn of events.
Oh, nice.
So it might not be on everybody's list. They might be like, well, it's a little bit different. I actually think, it was arranged a lot between Petrucci and Rudess. They did a lot of the songwriting along with Ray Myung, and I think Mangini kind of came in, and they already done their samples over how the songs were, and then Mangini just kind of came in and just kind of did the drum parts, but the songs were already kind of somewhat arranged, and he just fit in there. But they had something to kind of really try and figure out and reestablish after that. And I just felt it was a pretty impressive achievement to regain their composure after losing, a serious aspect of the engine that had driven them to that point in the band's career and stuff. But, there was just some, I mean, let me just pull up my phone here because I'm trying to like Bridges in the Sky, like All Illusions. They just had there was just some songs that haven't gotten out of my mind and really impacted me a lot. And I was just, This is the Life, Lost Not Forgotten. Like there's some pretty Outcry. Like there's some really heavy tracks. There's a couple of softer tracks there, Far From Heaven and Beneath the Surface, but it was like where they show kind of the range. They can just go from this heavy prog insanity into, no, we can write a slow little piano track here with Sensitive Labrie on vocals and stuff. And it's like, okay, we're not afraid to do that. It's just what we got to do. Like, it's part of the range that we achieve here. I always respect them even more for that kind of dynamism and stuff. So, yeah, I had to put that on my list somewhere in there. And so at the fifth kind of splits the list in half, and it's kind of the second half of how they had to, and it really kind of showed. It's just like they couldn't turn their backs on it even without Portnoy. They just had to keep going on, and they had to keep creating whatever there. And I think it kind of really, the songwriting kind of leaned in a different direction without Portnoy as the driver. And Petrucci and Rudess were just like, okay, well, we're pretty insane musicians and Mayung, and we got the pocket, and just give all the tools we need of support to Mangini. And he just came in there like a machine anyway and filled in the gaps. And they had a pretty tight pocket going on for sure. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a good documentary about them trying to find a new drummer.
Yeah.
Which is
no, it was like a 4 or 5 parter or whatnot on YouTube. Yeah, no, it was really, it was a cool process. I remember needing to do it because I'm like, no, you guys did not shut this fucker down. Like, we just need the music to keep coming. So, and it was cool, man. There's some cool other drummers that were trying out for it as well. Like, it would have been, but it's just interesting, just how the character had to, and Mangini kind of was the best fit for them, I think, too. And it was good, man.
Okay, so my number 4.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Distance Over Time.
Okay, nice.
I love this record.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Yeah, it's like,
I totally get it.
Yeah, totally get it. And it's for me the first, I put it on in my truck, and the first thing I noticed was, boom, there's bass. I can hear John Mayung so well. His bass tone is killer, and it's like it's the first time I've really felt like, oh, there's a killer bass tone.
Yeah.
And I noticed it right away. First track, I'm like, oh,
Untethered Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
it's like the mix is killer. This is my favorite Dream Theater album cover with the robot,
it's so good, right?
The skull, it's Hamlet,
Yeah, I know.
Questioning what's happening here. Is this? It's like some kind of moment, like what's going on here? Should this be the right order of things? It's crazy.
It's got that Westworld kind of feel with like the AI and just contemplating it. It's such a great album cover for sure.
Very Westworldy, yeah, totally. Yeah. And I mean, this is going to probably be one of the biggest, issues that we're going to have to question as time goes on. I mean, we have to AI, right? It's a very relevant topic, right? And the band,
and I just love their creativity. They've made a lot of Distance Over Time, and it's D over T. Like it's there you go. Like there's always something there. Like Room 137, Viper King, like Edward said, there's some great fucking tracks. Pale Blue Dot, really impressed with that album. So much so. Totally get it, dude.
And there's this
Paralyzed.
Paralyzed. Yeah, killer.
What is it? C sharp or something like it's just just the baritone guitar.
Oh yeah. I think it's the next album, but yeah, Petrucci's using an 8-string guitar now, which is
yes,
pretty
yeah.
cool. He's a
View for the Top of the World. Yeah.
But and yeah, there's this kind of funny conspiracy about was it S2N where it's got Owen Wilson saying "Wow."
Yes, he's in there. You hear it, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Down. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like this album just makes me even more excited because it's like this late in their career, they're making stuff like this. This is like wow, like wow. Yeah. It's there you go.
Wow.
All right.
Sick. Yeah, no. My number 4 that I have here is Train of Thought.
Nice.
Yeah, it's, it had to be higher up there, just the heaviness of it. And I mean, as I said before, it just came out at a time in my life that was just really raw. And actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, let me see on the release date here. Because I always thought, when was it? November 10th, 2003. For whatever reason, I thought it was a little earlier in the year. But yeah, no, I was in the depths of my own grief there. And it was just, there was something haunting and longing. I was just lost. And I found like it was just kind of a weird life raft for me to just kind of get a lot of emotion into. So it's just personally a very impactful kind of album there. This Dying Soul and things like that. Yeah, I was in a very different place, and a lot of the world was kind of breaking down, and just this music was very anthemic for what I was kind of moving through there. So it's just, yeah, it had some kind of deep roots in me, and every time I return to it, it's just some fucking balls on that fucking album, like just fucking fucking good.
Heavy record, yeah, so good.
Yeah. Okay. So 4 there, yeah. So now we're getting into the top 3 there, bud.
3, okay, yeah. So this is I'm surprised that I went with this one, but man, I'm gonna go my number 3, A View from the Top of the World. I think this is another like knock it out of the park record. I was
Dude,
like, the first time I heard it, man, I was like, wow. And continuing from Distance Over Time, they've got the mix figured out, right? They got Andy Sneap is the mixer on this thing.
Okay.
He's kind of like he's like the Svengali of mixing for metal. He's like he's like the guy, right? So the band obviously probably paid a lot of money to get him on this, but it sounds so good, right? I mean, it's probably my favorite sounding Dream Theater album. Well, Distance Over Time and this one, that's what a Dream Theater album should sound like. I just you crank these albums, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one, they're kind of going a little bit more progressive, which I love.
Yeah.
I mean, The Alien, I got that right away when I first heard that. I love it.
Well, and this is the album that won them the Grammy, right?
Oh, did they actually win a Grammy on this one?
They won a Grammy. The Alien. Petrucci came up and
no way.
Yeah, you're right. So they finally got the recognition they deserve, right? And I mean, I love this album, and in fact, like, it's so weird. Even like, I had an impossible time figuring out this list and all that. Like, I'm almost doubling in all these things and wanting to audible out. And I'm just glad you're actually speaking on behalf of that, because I should both these albums should unequivocally be in the top 10, in the top 5 for me too, because they didn't leave my iPod for weeks on end. Like, I just Answering the Call, like The Alien, Invisible, Sleeping Giants, crazy. Awaken the Master is insane. 8-string, and then View from the Top of the World, you got another 20-minute freaking epic, like, like it's so. And then they win the Grammy, lo and behold, like, and I'm just glad you're echoing that statement, even if I'm not, I mean to, but I'm just kind of putting it aside, looking at a few different reasons there, but conceptually whatnot, I've gotten so much from this album.
yeah, and I mean, like maybe because I took that long Dream Theater hiatus,
Yeah,
I'm not burdened by pre-emotional cement,
yeah,
or you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like
And
I'm a
it's
little
nice
free to,
for you to like to on this whole project to do the re-listen and go, holy fuck, okay, wow, there is something like that's really here that they've honoring and building on and stuff. Like,
yeah,
yeah, no, they just they just keep getting more experimental, and their technique and like the unisons and the work and the piano, guitar, like the musicality and the soundscaping, and
yeah.
it's fucking yeah, no, it's
Like
really impressive,
yeah,
man.
like what really impressed me too is just like the solos and just I and even just Jordan Rudess' sounds are getting just so much.
Yeah,
They don't sound like synth patches anymore. Like they sound like real instruments, and
yeah,
I think they might even be real instruments. Like, I think he might even actually be playing a real Hammond.
yeah,
And just it's no surprise that Mike Portnoy wants back like back in now, because it's like, you're making these records now. Like, I want in.
yeah, yeah,
It's like,
exactly. I want to play those songs for fuck's sake.
yeah, I know.
I know, man. I'm sure he went and saw a couple of their live shows. And he's just like, fuck, man, I need that 20-minute shit. Fuck, man. Good job, Mancini. Well, okay,
Yeah.
don't go away for a bit. I gotta get in on this shit. Good
Yeah.
job. Let's
Thanks for
do
holding
this.
my place. Okay,
Yeah, hold my beer.
hold my
I'll
beer.
hold your beer. You can hold mine. Let's go. Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
So what do we have? Three here. Three for me. Again, but I gave it the time and it's just hit. But the Astonishing.
Nice.
I really there's something to it. Like, it's just in a larger creative, you know, concept of what they endeavored to do. It was just like just showed how epic they really are in terms of, and what they're trying to go after and trying to create, and just keep busting through certain barriers and do whatnot. So, I mean, it just evokes something through its just in my own imagination. Like, it just takes me to another place. Like, just the story, the themes that are in play, and then the musicality, and like they could just there's just some really soft songs that spoke to like these little etudes of where the characters are at, and then some heavy stuff because you have like the nefarious kind of authoritarian control, and just the battle of all these different emotions and how they describe it musically and stuff, and the different relationships, the different characters. Like, it's just I get something from it every time I listen to certain, doesn't matter where I kind of start from. I don't have to go start to finish, but usually where I start, I end up just kind of going from there and just taking it down. And I'm just always impressed by it, or astonished, whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that album is a masterpiece. It's kind of like I don't know if I said this analogy like already, but it's like they've got this journey that they're doing, and they just kind of did a pit stop and then built
Yeah.
a beautiful mansion, and
Yeah.
it kept going. So it's like it is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But is it? Yeah, it's a little hard for me to see it in the timeline, but it's absolutely a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, and I think it absolutely like deserves to be up high on.
Yeah.
It, sure.
Yeah. All right. So what do we got? Number two, number one. Yeah.
Number two. So yeah, my number 3 and 4 were pretty were new.
Yeah.
I got to go kind of old school, just because of the memories that I've had.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah, I remember getting this.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about. Yeah.
Like, I got it for Christmas, and I remember just being so in love with it. And I mean, I think at the same time I got like, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and Frank Zappa's 200 Motels. So it was like getting all these CDs at once was so much fun. And I just remember just loving this record. And For me, was
Oh yeah.
absolutely a step forward from Images and Words.
Yes.
Like I can see that it's kind of fallen a little bit, I think, with most people.
Yep.
It's understandable, but yeah, I mean, stick to
I even remember though with us jamming out or whatnot like that. And I mean, you just always blew me away, even from the early get goes of your talent. But just even like the Erotomania solo and stuff like that. You're just like,
yeah,
spend like 2 minutes just doing it, playing it super clean. And I'm just like, fuck you and your super talent, you fucking kid.
yeah,
But
yeah, like oh, it's so good.
oh no, that album, they go back like, yeah, Lifting Shadows, like just Voices, Scarred,
Yeah,
Space Divest, like the piano, like now I'm getting more into really enjoying like this piano and composition there. And like these are just haunting, fucking like really atmospheric kind of tracks that, yeah, Voices, solo, yeah, no, Lie, yeah, there's a bunch on there. It's so good.
yeah. First,
I think they actually, I think Lie was one of their releases, right? It was one of the singles there. They tried to get some commercial with it and they had to edit it down, but it was one of the videos they shot. And it just, they were still trying to break into that that mid 90s rock scene, right?
Right? Like, yeah, like pull
yeah, that's it.
Two, right? Yeah. Well, I think Caught in a Web was a minor. Well, I mean, it was probably a failure.
Yeah.
I remember that was a bit of a single at some point. I'm not.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, and
this is all before. This is all pre-millennium. This is all pre-kind. This is just when the internet is like is just kind of like on the. None of us have phones back then. None of us have email addresses or anything. Like this is
like pre-internet, which is insane. Right?
I know, right? Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
There actually wasn't,
and they're all like young, and they just have a lot of energy and a lot of hair, and they're just fucking killing it. Like.
Yep. And I remember this was the album where Petrucci got his 7-string, right? Like,
yeah,
we were kind of excited that it was getting heavier,
Yep.
And yeah, it was kind of all about being heavy. It was kind of like, yeah, we wanted Dream Theater to be heavier. At least I did.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And
yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, even like the more popular one, like, but it's still like crazy guitar work, like Innocence Faded and the outro solo there. Like, I remember just like, it's just tight. Like, yeah, there was just some tracks that just blew me away as a novice guitarist back then, just wanting to have some dreams of maybe being a, better or playing some band one day or something like that. But they're a real inspiring force. And yeah, I'm glad I made it on my top 10 for sure. And I totally get it if it's a top 2 as well. As I say, all these albums, I could argue them all into the top 3, top 2, like at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have a bad record. There is no bad record,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. I did see them live at the Warehouse, and they were playing with I Mother Earth.
Okay.
So it was I Mother Earth, and then Dream Theater came on after. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I think I saw him back in the day. I think I saw him for the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence back then or something, which I can't remember, but I don't know if it was with I Mother Earth back then, but maybe. Fuck.
Yeah, it was around. I think it was like 95 because they were touring off this record, right? Yeah, it was early.
Oh man,
it was pretty.
That
cool.
would have been a sick show. I Mother Earth's fucking sick too. Like, yeah.
In a weird way, I actually liked I Mother Earth better at that show just because they were so off the cuff. Like, I kind of like played their songs like pretty much exactly as they are on the album, which was awesome. But like I Mother Earth would do like these extended jams, and I think at that time I was a little bit more excited about that. But but they
they play it like that's it. Like they're so precise that their lives are almost like the studio recording sometimes. Like. Which can be an amazing thing to see it live. Other times you're like, you want to see something just a little different or varied or something like that. Right. So, but I've got a few of their live DVDs and it's always just fun energy. And it's like, fuck, how do you remember all these songs, all these notes, like all these arrangements? Like they're just Yeah, just superhuman.
Well, I mean, and I see that Rudis kind of has an iPad with the sheet music. So I mean,
Yeah,
I think he has his cheat notes there. I mean,
I think so.
but yeah,
Petrucci doesn't though. Like
he
he's
doesn't
not.
need.
Yeah, it's all in his head. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's like a hidden teleprompter. It's like
Yeah, yeah. In his android brain or something. You can see the inner eyeball or something.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So my number two, yeah, I'm going old school roots. 6 degrees of inner turbulence.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Again, just similar in line with the Astonishing. Like, just there's something about these concept albums, and just kind of the thought they put into them. I mean, I guess more the concept would be on the second side, with the kind of 8-part element of what's it called again? In the whole inner turbulence suite or something like that. Let me just see how they refer to it as. I guess whatever, with the overture, the whole about to crash, war inside my head, like the whole big one long segued song, basically. But the first 5 songs on that album, you know, Blind Faith, Great Debate, Glass Prison, like just comes out like a charging bull. And yeah, I just remember like it was an influential one back then as well, and just really progressive too. And again, these are the early days of Rudis and what they were just starting to really create, but have really kind of epic kind of piano and melodic arrangements and things like that, and in their songwriting. And yeah, it was released again at another time in my formative, late teens, early 20s kind of deal where, yeah, I'm just so grateful to have a band like that I just kind of really almost semi-worship type deal. And just, they always kept giving me something to just keep growing my ear and my appreciation for progressive music back then. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a super intense record. Like it's awesome. It's a lot of like.
Yeah,
like
that Great Debate solo too, man. That's a fucking solo and a half for you too. Like, I'm sure you can play it. Okay, give me 25 minutes. I'll go learn it. Fine.
Well, sometimes Petrucci solos, yeah, it's like, oh man, there's just a part that you just get stuck on, and it's just like, it's gonna take a long time to figure this out. But
yeah.
Okay, number 1, eh?
Wow. Yeah.
Old school again, man. I gotta go.
Nice.
Birds, yeah. I mean, what a cool
dude
cover.
Bro, you know what I like about your list? It speaks, and again, I knew I'd learn and appreciate a lot of collaboration. Your top 4 being like the 1 and 2 of the release, and then the last 2 of them, it's like a full bookend of appreciation within your top 5. Like, your list just speaks to me, like it makes sense, and I'm like, I could have arranged mine that way too, and totally get it. But
yeah, it's a full timeline. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy to think that this is 92. I mean, like, so it's kind of like, I mean, bands don't like labels, right? And I mean, we don't really. I mean, we kind of have to label bands just because it just helps us like think about what's going on. Yeah. I'd say like they are a progressive metal band, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably the best term that they have. And I know the only other band that I can think of that really started progressive metal would probably be 70s Rush.
Okay.
Like, I think Rush was the kind of the starter of that.
Fair enough.
Especially with like, albums like 2112 and Farewell to Kings. Like, those are pretty heavy records. And then through the 80s.
And they were a massive influence on Dream Theater too. And I think that runs through their playing. It's in the roots of their inspiration. Genesis, Rush, for sure.
Yeah. And then you get like, the 80s influence as well. Like you get like the Yngwie Malmsteens with the classical metal going on. And then you get like, it's like Halloween and these bands that are,
Yeah.
kind of stepping up the metal classical thing, and then progressive bands like Marillion and Queensryche,
Yeah.
Fate's Warning. Like, so there's bands that are kind of doing it, but no one really did it like this, right? Like Dream Theater
Yeah.
nailed it. And their first album is a little bit more of that kind of 80s sort of like Bon
Yeah.
kind of thing. But like,
Yeah.
this just somehow encapsulates just everything in such
it's embedded in my DNA. I totally get it. But like,
yeah,
like the experimental, like I remember Under Glass Moon, hearing it the first time, and I'm just like, is that even a guitar solo? Like, what is that? Like, some of the sound, like, how the fuck does he do that? Like, and then Learning to Live, and they're still playing, like the themes that jump around in the different songs, and you're just like, who the fuck is this band? Like, Take the Time, Metropolis Part 1, like, I just remember like hearing that instrumental
break and like Take the Time, and that instrumental break in like Metropolis, and I'm just like, oh my god, like that's crazy. It's like a band solo, right? It's like it's like it's not just a guitar solo. There's like it's like a full instrumental, and then at the same time it's got really tender moments, like another
Surrender.
Surrender. Wait for Sleep.
Yeah, right.
Surrounded. Wait for Sleep.
Surrounded. Sorry, not Surrender. Surrounded.
Which kind of actually mirrors Metropolis Part 2. Like, I feel like that is a balance of like I feel like those, like this album and Metropolis Part 2 are kind of like they kind of go together, right? Like, it's like I feel like you could
a call and answer.
Yeah, like you could have taken Out Awake and Change of Seasons and Falling into Infinity, and like though it could have been like a sequence thing there, but but I mean, it was such an amazing and unusual band at that time, like 92. That's such a long time ago. I listened to this nonstop, probably for months. It was on repeat for months, right?
I remember when I was taking guitar lessons, it was like one of those albums on my guitar. I'm like, who the hell is this? It's just like, you can borrow it for a week if you want to listen to it or whatever like that. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. Just not knowing that this would be a band that would be around for the next 35 years, that would be one of the most influential. And you're just like, wow, this is some pretty epic music. And it's just like, you can feel the roots of what they were trying to create there. And then the more you looked into them, the more you're like, okay, they all went to Berkeley. They all they all really care about the music they're doing. Like,
for sure. Yeah. And it was such a nice refuge from, and not that I don't like that music, but like from the alternative grunge, kind of gangster rap scene, which I love, all that stuff.
Yep.
It was just nice to have this really intricate, kind of nerdy, I guess, right? A little bit nerdy.
Yep.
Like, it was a nice refuge for like musicians, right? It was like such a cool, and just the lyrics too, right? Like, it was such a nice place to go, right? It was a nice comfortable safe space, I guess, for musicians. I don't know.
What were we, 14 and 13 years old as we embark on our teenage years there or whatever, like.
Even I was just getting so tired of like having to, I was in some bands in high school where, it's like, as much as I love Weezer and Alice in Chains and all these bands, like, it was just, the guitar just wasn't challenging for me. And it was nice to have like just seeing a Petrucci, okay, cool. Now I can actually really try to learn something really challenging. It was really exciting. It was awesome.
Nice.
Right, Garsh.
Well, then again, I might as well jump into probably the obvious one would be there, but to speak to the Echo of Awake was Metropolis Part 2. Putting that at the top, because that was one back then that just, especially because I really enjoyed the Liquid Tension Experiment 1 and 2 there, even though, I guess it had Levin instead of Mayung, but basically it's just instrumental Dream Theater there. But that whole Jordan Rudess component was just satisfied with like, now he's in Dream Theater? Okay, let's see what we go there. And I remember up at university, always going to the local HMV, checking out albums. And I remember finding it, I'm like, fuck, they got a new album? Oh man, this is going to be good. And just going in and just like it just comes right off the gate after they go into the hypnosis session.
Yeah.
And it's just like just fucking like just epic. It was just like, okay. And I just remember being like, fuck, I love this fucking band. Like, and it was just, yeah, echoed all the things. And I think it took me back. It was that echo from that images and words and that satisfaction of like, oh, okay, this is part two. You need a whole fucking concept album. Like, how cool is that? Like, creatively as a, you know, and with all just each song segueing to the next, just the story. It's just like, fuck, what kind of band does, you know, again, there are some, but none in the current space at that time with that kind of tightness. And then just, yeah, some of the unison elements, and just once they had Rudis in there and you had Petrucci and Rudis working together, like it's just fucking it was mayhem. It was just amazing.
Yeah. So this didn't make your list.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like,
okay, like I just realized that.
Yeah,
no, it's all right, man. It's all right.
Yeah, it's so weird because it does, like, all of the albums are on my list. They're all like in parentheses, but they're not in the actual 10. Like, but it's like, no, it's there though. Trust me, it's there. It's there. I just needed room for the other ones to kind of get in there too. Yeah,
it's in between.
It was like 2.5. You know,
it was like the one.
Oh yeah, dude. I
mean, I guess they're all honorable mentions.
I know. I want to honorably mention how difficult this process was to actually come up with a top 10.
Yeah.
You know, and there's even something, I know Dreamin' Day or Night or whatnot like that, but even musically there, like, I mean, the singing, obviously, if Charlie wasn't totally doing it as a prerequisite for, I mean, I think Images and Words kind of did that there, but, you know, AT Jam and other things like that, like, there was definitely there was an energy on that album that I got into. I think every album that even didn't make it on, like, there's songs on all of them that are just like, yeah, they're embedded in my soul somewhere.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think if I had to pick one, I mean, yeah, I'd probably say, probably the Black Clouds and Silver Lining album would probably be my runner up.
Yeah,
it's really good. I think the only reason that I didn't put it on was I found the album sequencing a little confusing.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, but that's, yeah, besides that, it was just a great record.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, they're all great. But yeah, I mean, the very first album, I almost don't even really feel that that's a Dream Theater album. It just doesn't sound like Dream Theater.
It's true. You know,
it's like, yeah. So
Images definitely started off that train with what they were doing for sure. And it's all been a process and an evolution since then. And I mean, such a fascinating band to release 16 albums over 40 years, almost 35 years, whatever it is.
Like, what is it? It's 44 years, 45 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No. It'd be 35. Yeah,
35. Yeah.
45 would mean they started in the 70s. No. Yeah. 80.
Yeah.
I sometimes it's like time's getting so crazy now. Yeah.
I know. Well, you know what? At this rate, they'll probably make it to 45. It doesn't matter. They'll be like a half-century band. Who knows? You know.
I mean, it's happening now. Like, the Stones are in their 80s now, right? So
yeah,
I mean, they've like Dream Theater has a long way to go.
Yeah, and I think just creatively, that's what's so interesting and exciting about them. Like, they just really enjoy what's next, and now you get the reboot of Portnoy.
Yeah,
kind of coming back in and just bringing like this drive back in. It's like, fuck, man, it's gonna be fun.
Like, Portnoy definitely has. I don't know what the term is. He's got he's got the showbiz thing to him. Like, he's got that that salesman. I'm trying to think of the word. He has that quality about him. Like
Persona.
He's got that persona that he's able to keep himself in the public eye as him. Like he's got good. He's a good publicist of himself, or he's got good
Yes.
publicity of himself because it's a big deal that he's coming back, right?
Yeah.
He's very active on social media.
Yeah.
He definitely is good at publicizing himself.
Yeah.
Probably the most.
He honors a lot of different creative relationships. The fact that he just, he's got a lot of integrity. Like I needed to go out and play with these people. I got to be on this album, that album. Like somehow he was able to juggle all of these projects continuously. It's like, I don't know if he ever sleeps, like, or whatever. Like he's just always going. Like he's pretty, and that energy is contagious, and it's kind of really exciting to be a part of and see and stuff. So yeah,
because it seems like the other guys in the band. Well, I mean, John Petrucci is as well. He's definitely high up in the guitar community for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, I feel like if there's one guy that is responsible for that band's success, I would say it's Mike, because he just like whether it's his energy, he just I think he was able to be a really important part of that band's success. And I think because of the band's brand, they were able to carry on without him, but he was able to keep his brand alive outside of Dream Theater, which kind of proves to me that he is really good at that.
Yeah.
He's just good at, he's good at selling himself. And it's not a negative thing. I mean, he's not compromising himself by doing that. He's just a very, I think it's just his energy. He's just always doing stuff. He's always,
he's constant motion, baby.
Constant motion, yeah, totally. He's just always going. So, and he loves music, so it makes sense that he's always doing really good music, and that it's great that he's able to just do what he wants to do.
And I think even then, like, I mean, I've never taken percussive pass, but like, even just watching some of like drum videos and like the musicality of his arrangements in drumming, like how it plays into the melodic elements, within some of the songs. Like it's just really interesting to, again, just even see isolated drum tracks, but be able to hear how it just complements and really evolves like this very technical and progressive music. It's again, they have all the ingredients that just make these, it's just very addictive ear candy,
And it makes sense, right? Like he had good influences, right? You had Phil Collins from Genesis, who was like one of the main writers after Peter Gabriel left, and you have obviously Neil Peart, who was the lyricist writer for Rush. So, there was definitely footsteps following. He took it beyond, because Rush stopped being really progressive, in the early to mid 80s. They kind of calmed down their progressive elements, so there's definitely sort of a gap there, right? But I mean,
and it's just like, I'll take that torch and let's run with it. Take the baton and we'll take it in our own spin.
And I'm really glad that Dream Theater didn't go the way of Genesis, because I mean that is a pretty large criticism of Genesis, of them just kind of, I would say selling out, but just becoming extremely poppy, right? They figured out the formula for having hit records with hit songs, and Dream Theater kind of said no to that, and that's I think we all respect them more for that, because there's enough bands writing hits, right? We don't need Dream Theater to write hits. We just need Dream Theater to be Dream Theater, right? That's
they write epic hits instead, it'll never get played on the radio, but it's just like, it's just really, and I think it's so long that even if I've listened to a song like 50 or 70 or 100 times or more, like there's always something to it that's just kind of really interesting. Like it's just, you can always almost hear it for the first time in some ways. I don't know how to describe it, but
all right, Garsh, well,
definitely one of my most influential. It was great, dude. And I think, just the whole discussion just complements and really speaks to just sort of the impact they've had in the space and stuff. So it was a really neat process, and I really appreciated how you musically shaped your list and the reasons where, and I could totally see it, and it's just like, okay, yeah, it really, it's yeah.
So
it was awesome.
So what I'll do is like while I'm doing the editing here, I didn't keep the score here, but we'll do a composite list of the two of ours like together. We'll see we'll
Sure.
what the composite list is.
Yeah,
I'll score the albums from so 10 will be 1 point, 9 2 points, back down to 1, and then we'll see
okay, nice.
the composite list.
Yeah, and then people can heckle us online, being like, "What? You didn't even get images and words on there? What the fuck do you fucking know, you fucking motherfucker?"
Sure. Yeah, you know what? Like everyone has the right to do that. That's totally fine. I would say just add your own lists. If people watch this, just add your own list. And
yeah. Well, exactly. It's such and your own opinions and your own influences. Like what impacted you the most as well. Like, I think that's such a good process. And and hopefully this is, a good little Genesis exercise to spin off other people's insights as to what inspired, their lists as well. So for sure, I think that's a great idea for your audience.
And it's crazy how, two really, really intense Dream Theater fans didn't have any albums line up exactly on any one number. Right. So that just shows how subjective this whole exercise is. But but that's okay. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, like
totally.
music isn't supposed to be a specific order. It's but yeah, it is fun to create your own order. I mean, it is a fun exercise.
Yeah.
And it makes it more tangible, and it gives you a great excuse to listen to these albums again and compare them.
Absolutely. Dive in deep and enjoy, everyone, for sure. And thanks for listening. Awesome, bud.
We'll talk soon.
Sounds good, brother. Much love and respect always. All right.